EU5 does not need mana because EU5 has dynamic, interactive, and sometimes luck-based systems, such as ministers and the characters in your court and family that manage to influence every single system that you would typically require to spend your abstracted bird sword and paper magic points to make whatever you want to have happen in EU4. Greetings and welcome, I am Joffrey, and today I wish to discuss a, a topic that, while old, almost a year ago this came up on the Tinto Talks, I want to focus in on it now as the game is almost going to be officially announced, and I more and more have had conversations with folks who are skeptical about EU5 because they are afraid of its lack of randomness and the fact that the game will be slower paced or the lack of mana. And I believe that the existence of these ministers is 80% of why there is no need to worry about any of those things at all. I confidently believe that the removal of mana and that the game pace are all going to feel wonderful once we actually get our hands on it. You see, as for Conquest, which is not the main topic of the video, but this is unscripted, so what the hell. Conquest, we have been told, while it's difficult to actually get a CB unless you either specifically take a certain focus at the beginning of the game. Every area you get to pick your new focus, and if you take the diplomatic focus, you're able to fabricate claims, and I believe that, because you can't fabricate claims normally, and if you pick that one, that also allows you to set up more powerful vassal types. So that means that if you want to conquer a lot and manage lots of areas, ironically enough, you don't take the military focus because you want the diplomacy one to actually be able to do the conquest. The military focus just makes you better at it. With the diplomatic focus, you can fabricate the claims to get your conquest wars, and we have been shown that areas that are less fully integrated into a country are more easy to conquer as well. So if you're looking at an area that's full of small countries, it's going to be very easy for you to just conquer them all as usual, one by one, especially if you can fabricate claims on them. Meanwhile, for a larger country like France, just have to look for the areas of it that aren't fully integrated, the further reaches of its country that aren't following the core French culture, because those won't be core states, they will be territories instead. Those will be cheaper to conquer, and you can conquer vast swathes of such land, as we have been told that Syria is a region that you can take off of Egypt very quickly because it is not core land. But this is getting off the point, so I'll wrap that up with saying that once you've conquered said land, people are frustrated by the notion that it takes a long time to core territories, and my response to that is both. If you take the diplomatic focus, then you'll have a powerful type of vassal, the March, that you can set up in those lands, and regardless, everyone can set up new vassals from game start in EU5. So simply manage more vassals while you start to integrate these large swathes of land if you insist on conquering a lot. And the other thing is that you use your ministers to core territory. You simply cannot make it a integrated core. It's a specific terminology that's a little confusing, but there is the action that your ministers can take. They have lots of such interactions, but the various ones that you want to focus on regarding coring lands instead of spending however much paper points to core the territory, you have a minister integrate the lands, because once you conquer lands, you need to integrate it, and that is the equivalent of the first core that you make on a land in EU4 before you swap it to be no longer a territory instead of a state. But there is no state-territory difference. It's instead whether a land is integrated, not integrated, or a proper core. Because a proper core means that the land is either it's either majority and accepted or primary culture. And to make something like that happen, once you've integrated the territory and you've chosen not to set up a vassal there instead, if it is a wrong culture and you don't figure that it will be easy to culturally convert it, because if land has lots of pops, you've conquered some big cities and you know it'll be difficult to culturally convert it, that is what this button is for, the expel people button, which is down here. You have the ability to expel pops, and it will enable peasants to migrate, so they will shuffle off rather quickly. Well, we don't know specifics, but the point is that it will expel the population to a degree. Their migration attraction will go down vastly, so people will exodus the land en masse, and you can send multiple ministers to the same location on different tasks. So you can have someone expelling pops from the location you've conquered, and having another one on said location doing cultural conversion, so that those that remain will be converted to your culture faster. And perhaps once you're done expelling pops, you've conquered this large city and you want that to be the new heart of loyal pops in this region you've conquered. You expel a bunch of people. None of this costs any various points. It's all the skill of these characters. You simply just do the expel option, and once enough people have left, maybe you instead expel pops from one of your own cities and put a migration attraction a cabinet minister on this place you want them to go to. So you kick them out of Paris, for example, which has so many people to spare, and then have them go towards Barcelona if you conquered it, for example, to get those French pops in there en masse. And then culturally assimilate the rest with more minister actions. And this rambling is all to say that, but focusing in on when people talk about the randomness, they're afraid that the randomness of EU4 is part of what makes it exciting, because no two games are the same, and the fact that your ruler will be random and you need to try and get a good character so that you have the good monarch points generation. Well, how is this any different with the characters that you have ruling your country and the characters in your cabinet? You're not always going to get the same characters generated post-game start. And in this case, there's even the added layer of the characters when they're first born. They've explained that you don't see their stats immediately. They have to develop over time as they get growth moments. And instead, sometimes you'll get lucky and you'll see someone is born who has a trait like Timur starts with, which is gifted or some such thing, which makes them gain skill points at an extra pace whenever they have an event fire that triggers them to get some points. So you've got to, because every time you do one of these minister actions, it's not even a case of just, oh, well, as long as I've got good ministers, I'll just hire whatever good characters I can get, and those will be consistently at least decent. Not so, because your ruler is rarely going to be even decent at all three skill types. Because we have King Magnus here, he's quite bad. He's pretty bad with military skill. So even though his minister is a 50 skilled character, so he's average, the King Magnus himself is only 33, so the expelling pops here used in this example is really not that good. And as a result of that, I think that randomness and the fact that as a player you're going to want to try and manage your own dynasty as much as possible to get those better characters in charge whenever possible is still going to be present. It simply won't be done through an abstract method of magic point spending. Stopping back one more time to bring attention to this here, the panel where we have been shown in the past, the age transition. 10 years into the game, the Age of Renaissance starts, and this is when you get to make your choice. And this is where the Marcher Lords and claim fabrication things I mentioned were, where if you take the military focus, you unlock the ability to recruit. Each of these, you unlock the ability to recruit research techs, rather, advances. These do not become researched. It is more like picking a idea group. But I will talk more about this another time. The Marcher Lords and Claim Fabrication are simply options that you unlock if you do the diplomatic focus, and I think I'm going to be a big Diplo enjoyer in EU5. This here is the main thing I wanted to come to this page, though, to cap off the video. Research speed, because in EU5, you do not simply have 3 lines of research, 1 admin, 1 dip, and 1 mill line of text that you just build up points and then spend to instantly research. You simply instead have a per age and per institution technology tree that extends down, which this is an early version of that we had been shown with lots of placeholder icons. But these are things that you will choose. You will pick one, and this one that you'll pick, yes, agriculture can settle, and then city buildings can build cities. Oh boy. These, you will pick one that is the one you are trying to research, and once you have finished researching it, you will have finished unlocking it, simple as. And you get this research progress not by just spontaneously deciding you want to spend all your points to instantly get it. You get it by the usage of literacy among all of your pops and other such things. There's various modifiers that increase percentages of your research ability. I didn't notice actually the power of liturgical language. That's very curious. But the point is that all of these systems come together to enable EU5 to remove the antiquated, rather arcadey and stagnant mana system that, while it's used everywhere, it feels very artificial and it does not feel immersive, as opposed to all of these systems we've discussed today, which enable you to truly get your mind into the country and the nation that you are playing. It helps you really think about all the different actions you are taking, where I have heard some people say that and I agree that to a degree in EU4 you can really get into that mindset of, I have this power, all these power points, I can only spend them on certain things, what is going to be my focus at the time? But in EU5, it is instead a case of you needing to worry about all these different things. You need to consider each one of them and what you will be spending your other resources focusing on. Your things like just gold, for example, on what you will actually be doing if you want to increase your literacy among your pops, for example, for extra research. You actually need to consider things like, do I want more research rate? Because in EU4, it is always a no-brainer to every single time take my hands off the screen. It is always a no-brainer to simply pick any option that you have which enables better tech cost and institution growth and all those things. However, here it won't always be so simple, because if you're playing a monarchy, making peasants more knowledgeable, any pops more knowledgeable, you will instead make them more class conscious, which is a crazy notion by EU4 standards. Truly, this game does blend the best elements of the EU and Vic franchise together. As the game comes closer and closer to its official announcement, if it wasn't for the fact that it was going to be announced on the the Europa Universalis YouTube channel, I would have still held out hope for them coming up with a new name for the franchise. But such is the way of things. But I believe that I shall call this rant to a close for the moment. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye!